Thank you for joining me on this Supervision Spotlight series. We always talk about this all the time anyway, about how a connection feels so aligned, and I really felt that right from the beginning. So yeah, just saying that to you here in our arena. Thank you for agreeing to do this, and I'm looking forward to our conversation. So is it okay to just introduce yourself and say a little bit about where you are in your counsellor journey, how long you've been counselling for, just a little brief overview?
So Mim McConaughey. I've been a counsellor therapist. I graduated 5 years ago, but I set up my private practice just over about 3.5 years ago. So yeah, I love the work that I do. I'm really passionate about it. I work with adults. My background is very much integrative, so working with all different types of ways of working with people and finding what works best for them. But yeah, I work online predominantly, which really gives me a great opportunity to meet with lots of other people, lots of other clients that I wouldn't necessarily come in contact with. So I really appreciate that. I have been very much interested in counselling since I was young. So playing the role of mediator with friends and just being someone who's naturally introverted, very much observing, watching, and being a support. So I was very much drawn to that and just wanting to understand people and help them and help myself understand myself a little better too. So that's what kind of drew me to counselling.
Thank you for being so open and sharing more. Really grateful that you would. And then when you're talking about what drew you to counselling, it's making me think about our conversation today about our collaboration and what drew you to want to work together. So can we start there? And could you share a bit more about what drew you to want to collaborate and work together in supervision?
Yeah, I'm happy to say, not happy to say, but happy to be honest in the sense of I'd had a bad experience of supervision. And I think supervision is such, as we know, an important relationship you have with your supervisor. Being able to take your client work to supervision is so important and so vital to the work we do. In a way, it was hard having a bad experience, but it also then gave me the opportunity to think about what I really wanted from a supervisor, what I really wanted from supervision and needed in this season. And I had sort of very clear ideas as what I was looking for. And I think obviously when I came across Sarah, I came across yourself, I just was able to see so many things. I thought, oh, I could really work with Sarah. I could really work with her as my supervisor. And I think once I'd read a little more, seen some of the videos, and obviously met with you, that kind of confirmed for me. It felt very safe, very much the sort of energy levels as well, felt very much aligned. And I think just that sense of taking a deep breath and sort of releasing it and going, okay, I feel like this could work really well for me. And just the relief of that, I think we can relate to our clients then trying to find a counsellor therapist. You know, it's so hard to do that, but it's also sometimes hard to find the right fit with a supervisor. But it felt very easy from just the get-go in terms of knowing this would be a great fit for me and work really well. So yeah, I was just grateful to find you.
Thank you for sharing so openly, as you always do. You know, I always experience you as so open and really leaning into the work. And that's what we really say in supervision, when we need to be like open, being able to be our full selves. And to hear you saying that you felt safe from the beginning, that kind of like relief in, okay, I can be safe in this space and have that alignment of energy. That's just wonderful to hear that you felt that from the beginning. And I also was reflecting when you were sharing then on the similarity between our client search for the right fit and our search for the right fit, and how important it is that we've got the right fit and supervision so we can then do the magical work we do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I knew in training how important supervision was.
Mm.
But also there's so much going on when you're in training and trying, and obviously with the supervisor, but you also feel almost like you're ticking a box, or you're having to make sure you're speaking about the right theory or model, or, you know, it feels very tick box in some ways. And some of it feels safe. But I think some of it, once you step into private practice, is you almost, I didn't feel fully prepared to go into private practice and then to think about what I wanted and needed from a supervisor. Felt like relearning something. And I think being able to see, again, that vulnerability that clients have trying to find someone who they can talk to, feel safe with, open up to, bring all the raw and messy parts of being a human, is also very much paralleled with us being counsellors and trying to bring all those things and find that safety in the supervision space. So yeah, I think there's very much that parallel that we can relate to with them. And I felt very much in that space on this journey to find my supervisor. And again, the relief that you can find, so speaking about my clients, them feeling, oh, I feel safe to bring these things, feels so important within the supervision to have that safety net of having to bring all the work and to bring the hard parts and the mistakes. And I think, again, that was something that I felt in the information I saw from yourself, was that mistakes are just part of the work too, that we need to own them, we need to work through them and also celebrate them in some ways, that sense of that we can be human and we can figure things out. And that's also part of the work too, that we're not going to be perfect. And that's okay, because the more we can be ourselves in supervision, the more we can be ourselves in the client space, and how important and vital that is.
Wow. So much magic in what you've shared there. I really want to hear again how you felt and what you were looking for in that safety, and how you've been able to bring your whole self to supervision. Even the hard parts, the messy bits, the bits we kind of think, oh gosh, that didn't go perhaps as how I wanted it to go. But really seeing that as a learning opportunity, an experience where we can grow and expand practice, we can grow and expand our confidence, we can grow and expand as a human first, therapy second, like we always say. And that's so powerful to have, and to also hear that we have that together. We've co-created that. You have that from the supervision.
Yeah. And again, I think that's essential. Like, we need that space where we can bring, as you said, the humanness of ourselves to the space, and know also, okay, if I'm being real and honest with how I'm doing, where I'm at, both with my client work, but just in life in general, it's important we know that's going to impact the client work, and being able to talk about that. I know it was thought of before that we're like the blank space or blank paper in which the client projects everything on, but it's really not true. It's really not. And so much of ourselves is going to be in the space, our lived experience, who we are, what we're like as a person, the things that make us tick, they're the things that are going to also influence the space. And yes, of course, it's about the client, but we're also in the space with them. And again, the collaboration that I feel with yourself in supervision, it is there because of the real and honest work that we do. I'm able to bring who I am as a person first, therapist second, knowing that who I am also influences the space, and who wants to work with me too. Who people are drawn to work with, to have as their counsellor is important. So the more we can show up as ourselves, and the more, again, that's celebrated within the space of supervision, the more we can do that with our clients. And then we will attract more clients who are aligned with who we want to work with and how we want to be. And I've seen that develop even more so in the last year or so that we've been working together. I've seen that shift as well for myself, which has felt so important for the work. Yeah.
Wow. That's huge, isn't it? And then what I'm hearing there is that real importance of being our whole selves, and then having supervision where we can be our whole selves, so we can attract aligned clients. And you've seen that shift as well in your practice, by the sounds of it, through you being able to be your whole self here and feel safe enough to do that. You're then attracting more aligned clients and empowering them to feel their most authentic selves. It's something I'm so passionate about. I think what I've seen in my life is the more me I am, the more I can provide spaces where you feel able to be you, that your clients feel able to be them. And it's kind of that beautiful ripple. So to hear that, and also the second part, to have that celebrated, to see our uniqueness as a real strength.
Yes, I think that's so true, because we're not robots, that sense of that we can bring authentic selves to the space, and that'd be a really positive thing. And having to sort of, I've had to relearn that, or learn that for the first time really, with having supervision with yourself, because again, whilst training is good, it still feels there's a gap in terms of that celebration of being who you are and celebrating that authenticity and that uniqueness that you bring, then having someone who celebrates that with you, having that supervision and having that space in which that's celebrated. And you said seeing the ripple effects with that, knowing that if I'm being my authentic self, I'm encouraging my clients to do the same thing. And you said that's so powerful. It's been powerful for me. And I know it's powerful for my clients.
So powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. So before you circle forward then, what's your experience of our supervision and working with me been so far?
Yeah. I was thinking initially the first sessions for me were about unlearning some false things that I held on to, both within training, but also past supervision, and knowing what the space could be for supervision. My hopes for it, there was definitely a hope of what I was thinking, oh, I hope this is what supervision can be, but actually having that confirmed and knowing, yes, and it can be so much more, that actually there's a freedom there and flexibility, and it doesn't have to be a rigid set timetable. This is what we follow, and this is always the same. And the relief from that, I think, again, taking that breath and going, oh, okay. And knowing then the relationship is so collaborative that it isn't about me just bringing something and it's, again, ticking a box and off we go. It's the curiosity with the client work and the openness and freedom to explore that and taking our time with it, looking at it from different angles, having that gentle challenge and knowing you've got another person's perspective from it. And that client's also being helped by someone else, that idea that you're not holding it all by yourself is so valuable. So the space itself always, each time feels different. It feels there's a similarity in that it will always feel safe. There's always the sense of boundary around it. What do we want to look at? And sometimes I'll have very clear ideas, and other times as we're talking, those other things come to mind. And there's always an idea, but let's explore what feels most alive and relevant. And often there are a lot of parallels between what I'm bringing and the client work too. And that always feels so refreshing to know it's being held and boundaried, but it's alive. There's flexibility with what we think about together. And I really appreciate that a lot.
Wow. I was really listening to everything you were sharing there. And well, first of all, thank you for sharing all of the experiences that you've had through our work together and voicing that here. I'm really grateful. There was a few key things. There was something at the beginning then when we first connected and begun working together, which was so pivotal and important, which was that unlearning what supervision isn't and holding the hope together for what supervision is, and this expansion. The word in my head was like an expansion of what supervision can be, and having that evidence through our work together and having that sense of you're not doing it alone, you're not alone in the work. I can really hear that kind of structured nature, but so fluid and alive. And we go where we need to go with that curious lens. What's going on for you? What's going on for the client? What are we learning here? That kind of being championed and challenged gently, and all of those different elements. Where does your mind go hearing that back?
Yeah, I know people use the J word a lot, but it has been a journey, and it has been so important and vital to my client work. Taking that step and knowing I need to find a different supervisor and all that work within it that just feels so alive has felt so important. And it's impacted obviously in the client work, but also me, my growth as a therapist, counsellor, that sense of just knowing what I want and need from the space and that being met. And also, as you said, that sense of expansion of what supervision can be too. It's been exciting. It's been the first few months where it was hard for me also, not in terms of the space, but just making sure I was letting go of those things, really allowing that. But I was so grateful for the space we created that it was a sense of, okay, we'll let go of that lie. We'll let go of that untruth. And then the freedom that gave, for me to really think about, oh, this is what the work is about. This is what it could be. And there's an energy and aliveness there. And I feel that I'm within my work too.
I was really listening to what you were saying then, and that sense of going at pace, kind of, we went at that kind of safe pace so we could create a new experience of supervision for you. where you felt safe, where you could grow as a counsellor, as a therapist, as a human, confidence. Yeah, so powerful. Is there any kind of other descriptions you want to share around our supervision space?
I think just for me, in terms of, I know we've already said it, but just in terms of the energy, I think that feels really important for someone to find the supervisor and find the space that you're actually leaving supervision with a sense of energy, with a sense of hope, with a sense of curiosity, getting about your clients. I never feel drained from supervision with you. It's always that sense of the relief and the breath, a sense of, oh, I brought my clients and I've brought what I've needed and we've explored things. But also that sense of, right, on I go, that sense of, right, I feel like I've been able to unpack things and look at them and figure out some of those jigsaw pieces. And then on I go to carry on with my work. And that's felt really important.
Yeah, wow. So that sense of kind of relief of having got what you wanted from the supervision space, which has then given you energy, uplifted you, given you energy, and given you that sense of like, right, I can do this, on I go. I can continue now doing this work. Wow. Thank you for sharing. So if we circle forward then, I was really curious, was there anything else that you wanted to share that's on your heart or in your mind around how the supervision space together differs, or what I provide in supervision differs to other experiences you might have had?
I touched a little bit on just within training. It felt, as I said, the sense of tick box, the sense of going through the motions, it felt very rigid. And I understand that as part of training, that they have to be able to see that you're fulfilling certain criteria and you're doing the work and everything else. But I miss the sense of, oh, well, I hope supervision could feel a little bit different. So knowing that in this space, it feels there's flexibility, there's a sense of movement and flow within the sessions. But also, as I said, from a previous experience, it didn't feel great. The safety, the warmth, the sense of let's work through the challenges, let's make sure the work feels collaborative, let's be curious together about the work, what's going on for you, how are you, what's going on with your private practice. It's a wonderful profession, but it can also feel quite isolating at times in terms of day in, day out and doing the work you do. And so knowing actually you've got a supervisor who's curious about the work and where you're getting support and how you're looking at your marketing, all the things that could be questions that you might have, and knowing actually I can bring that here and I can bring that to the space has felt very different. So yes, a very different space for me. The encouragement I would give to everyone is the sense of look for what you deserve in terms of supervision. It should feel a sense of curiosity and collaborative work and safety and challenge and a sense of someone who's got your back and there's growth there, and asking questions and looking at you as an individual in terms of the work you do and all the parts of yourself that you bring. Feels really important.
Yeah, absolutely. That sense of kind of this being about you, supervision's about you, first and foremost, how you're doing, but then also that safety, warmth, encouragement to explore client work, the essence of the two sides of that. So there's all the stuff that we have to do if we're building private practices, which is the marketing, which is the kind of getting ourselves out there and building that courage to do that. So looking at those aspects as well as your client work, what's happening, but it's the growth of the business side too, which I'm hearing you get from our space together.
Yeah. And I do, that's important. Really encourage people to look for that for a supervisor, because it's something that obviously you provide for me in the space. And so I'm so grateful for that, because that enhances the work I do as well. Knowing that, okay, we can look at other aspects and those other challenges or questions I have. That leads to more of a sense of my own confidence in the work I'm doing and how I'm sharing, and allowing that sense of openness and authenticity of who I am and the work I provide.
Yeah, absolutely. So is there any other ways that our work's impacted you personally or professionally that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think just that sense of permission to think about the work as a whole, also think about myself as obviously as a counsellor therapist, but also my growth in my personal life, making sure I'm making that a focus, looking after myself and the way in which I do that, making sure that that's a priority, thinking about where I want to go with my work, my practice, what do I want to shape it into, and having someone ask you those questions, provide that safety net of being able to think about the work that we do, the permission to think about, well, who do I want to work with? I think initially when I started out, I was like, any kind of influence or anyone sort of coming in and interest in the work, I was like, okay, let's explore and make sure it's safe, but off we go. That sense of where do I see myself and who do I want to work with is a really important question to make sure I've got enough energy for the work I do and that I'm enjoying it as well. I think it's a tough job that we have, but there should also be celebrations and moments where we feel happy in the work that we do. We're getting up and not dreading the work we do. We're looking forward to it, even when it's challenging and difficult, having the space to feel, oh, yeah, this was good. This feels right. Glad I'm doing the work I'm doing.
Yeah. So important to hold those spaces for celebration, celebrating the work. And I know we do that together. We celebrate the good things. We give ourselves permission to do that and honour what's gone well. And then you're also speaking then and saying that it's impacted your growth in confidence and who you are as a person. And that sense of making sure we check in with looking after yourself and your energy and how you're feeling so you can show up and do the work. And then there's that real permission piece around who are you here to help and how. So you get kind of, I see it in my head as you taking kind of that empowerment over your practice and that sense of building your practice and how you want to grow.
Yeah. And even just hearing all that back again, I think about the impact of that has been, so influential in that permission to self, to think about those things and to really go for that, in terms of who I want to work with, the confidence and growth in my own personal life, but also my role as a counsellor and therapist, and that belief in what I have to offer and knowing we're always learning, we're always growing. Can we still always be curious about the different things that are coming out and how we approach the work? Makes it alive and exciting. It can feel a bit scary, I think, if you haven't got then that base, that support in place with the right supervisor.
Absolutely, because that circles back to what we were saying at the beginning or earlier on in our conversation about it feeling can be a lonely profession and it can feel quite isolating, and how important it is to work in collaboration with someone who gets it. And for this element that you're then speaking about, which is this self-belief around what you're here to offer. And I know we kind of share these beliefs about this spiritual lens or this energy lens that we sometimes look at things from, but that real sense of why are we here on earth, who are we here to help, and the life purpose stuff that's so important as well. And really working in alignment with your authentic self and working in alignment with who you're here to serve and support. And it sounds like you get all of that as well in our space.
Yeah. And, I think probably before I thought, oh, would that be okay? Or maybe that's not right or that's not appropriate. But actually, it absolutely is, that sense of knowing that you've got someone who's got your back, and it just influences all the parts of the work. It has such an impactful effect, and it means that I can show up in my work building that sense of confidence and belief and knowing the work I'm doing is the right fit for me. And I think that feels, again, it's so vital to the work, so we feel that we can keep showing up for our clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for making the connection and how vital that is. So what are the aspects of my supervision style that have most supported your development in confidence or competence as a therapist?
I think number one is the warmth and desire to be connected and collaborative. That sense immediately, the sense of being seen and wanting to be understood, the sense of value that comes from someone who's interested and curious in who I am, what makes me tick as a counsellor, the work I'm doing, the challenge. I enjoy that sense of challenge that someone brings, but it's done in such a considered way, in such a way that feels safe and that we can explore those things together. It never feels intrusive or feels like, oh, I'm being criticized. I think those things can feel really tough. So I think for me, it's the sense of I can bring the mistakes and the rawness and the sense of, I don't know what I'm doing, or what do you think? You know, how did this go? How did you think this come across? And that can be safe. You know, it does feel like it's been such a safe place for me. And then all those parts make it feel safe. And I think the style of that has felt so warm and inviting and calm, but also providing that gentle energy as well, which has been, again, I think so important to, well, then coming away from it feeling, yeah, I feel ready to go and to see my clients again.
Yeah, I hear that. And there's something there that I'm hearing around that warmth, that inviting energy, that kind of calm nature, but also that curious challenge so that you feel held within the challenge. It's not that critical approach, it's a supportive, collaborative, holding you within that challenge, which sounds like that feels safe to then look at those harder things.
For me, I mean, I'm sure for lots of people, but for me, that feels so important, you know, to keep showing up and bringing the difficult parts. I think if you're in a space where it doesn't feel safe to bring those parts, or you've had something that feels highly critical or very much judged, then you're not going to want to bring those parts. And those parts are vital, you know, for our own growth as counsellors, but also that we can keep showing up and going, these are things I'm struggling with, you know, and that's accepted and held, and seeing those things for our own growth as counsellors, but needing that space to feel safe to do that. And in the supervision spaces, yeah, I really appreciated that.
Absolutely. I always believe supervision's a call to courage, you know, and so is the work that we do as counsellors, as therapists. We really have to be courageous. And so is supervision, that call to courage, you know, bringing our whole selves, bringing all the parts of us, and having that real curious, compassionate nature to look at all those parts. So to hear that you feel able to do that through the space and how I am and what I provide, that's incredible, because I know what a huge impact that has on you, you've shared today, but also the ripple effect that has on your clients and then the outer world. Yeah.
Because I guess if you think about the influence it has on us, as you said, the clients, but then who they're coming into contact with in the day to day, you know, it can have such a profound effect when there's that safety in supervision and all those aspects we've spoken about. You know, it really does, you said, just ripple out in so many ways to so many people. It's hugely important and beneficial for so many people, not just myself. I can see that benefit across so many.
Yeah. Really powerful. The image in my head is that, like, zooming out of that lens and just looking at, okay, through the choice that we make with who we collaborate with in supervision, and then the ripple impact that that has, like you say, through our clients, who our clients come into contact with, our clients' family, friends, relationships, colleagues, but then also for us as humans, our family, you know, the people we support in our own lives, all our friendships. It's like that ripple forwards, that ripple backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Powerful. So when you think about our supervision relationship for a moment, are there any defining moments in our relationship that have significantly impacted you personally or professionally, your identity as a counsellor? And if so, what would some of those be?
It was so profoundly important, was those first few months were absolutely vital. I think anyone who's, it doesn't even have to be a bad experience with a supervisor, but anytime you're coming to a new experience, you know, it can take time to sort of adjust and settle in. I think part of me felt very comfortable very quickly, but as we said, there were things for me to unlearn. So in those initial first months were vital for that, for me to pick those things apart and challenge myself in that way to unlearn those things. Just key times over the number of months we worked together now has been about bringing different clients and looking at those together and being curious and open and really looking at each session. I can see, looking back, the impact that that's had overall, as we said, of not having like a rigid, complete structure of this is what it is every week. So I think even just every session has been impactful in the sense of, well, actually, we can bring what we need and I can bring what I need and we can explore that together. And knowing that that's going to have a further effect as I go on, and that sense of freedom. I don't ever dread having supervision. It's always looking forward to it and then being curious and open to, okay, what we might explore, and not feeling that I've got to have that set agenda. So I think absolutely those initial few months, but even just the work that we've done, continue to do together, each session has such a profound impact. And that belief of, well, I can keep exploring and bringing different parts of the work and bringing different parts of myself, bringing my questions, looking at different parts of the work, being in private practice too. And so I think month on month, it's seeing that impact and feeling more secure in the work I want to do and who I want to work with. And that just continues to build and build.
Wow, I feel like you said so much there. Thank you for sharing so openly and honestly. Really hearing the impact, really powerful, profound impact on, like we've said all the way through, not just the client work, but on you and how confident and secure that supports you to feel. Thank you so much for sharing. If there was a counsellor in training or a qualified counsellor, anybody else looking for supervision, and they've stumbled across this in the internet, which hopefully people will if they feel drawn to want to work with me, what would you say to those people watching this video?
Yeah, I would definitely say reach out to Sarah. If you're connecting with Sarah and the things she's saying, and I think the things that I saw, both either that she'd written down, but also in videos, I was immediately drawn. And if you feel that sense of deep breath, that release of this, oh, okay, this is someone I could really work with. If you're feeling that, then do reach out. It's so vital that you work with a supervisor that's a good fit for you. And I think when we had that initial conversation, Sarah just asked such great questions around working together and what I was looking for and what she would provide. It was so clear. So all the steps along, if you're looking at something and it connect, reach out, have that initial conversation. For me, knowing, it just felt like the right fit very quickly that I knew. So yeah, do it, reach out. You won't be disappointed. And knowing that for me, the experience that it's given me month on month and the impact it's had on my work, knowing for yourself, if you're looking for someone who is collaborative, who is warm, who's open, wants you to bring the messy, the mistakes, that's all to be part of the work and growth. There's so much that you will experience working with Sarah, and you won't regret it. You really won't. It will feel like, as I said, that release of breath, and it will feel really easy and comfortable. And for anyone who's struggling or doubting what supervision can be, knowing that this is a great fit, it could potentially work for you really well because it's safe.
Wow. Just really kind of taking that in then and just really feeling like the magic in what you shared there and what it's given you. Just wow. Can't find the words because I think I'm reflecting on our relationship and how just felt like that, like from the beginning, like a fit. And to hear you experiencing that as well, right from the beginning, you felt like you'd exhaled and gone, okay, I can be held here. This is safe. This feels aligned. That's everything. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything else on your heart, in your mind, that you'd like to say on this topic of our work together before we close out our conversation?
I'm just so grateful. I always come away from it feeling supported, heard, valued, just very much seen, that it feels such a safe space, that anything I've shared hasn't felt, oh, I've got to worry about that, or it's I can bring the messy parts, the bits I'm struggling with. I'm so grateful for that because the work is hard. The work is wonderful and amazing, but it's hard and requires a lot of us as people. And so I think having that right fit for supervision with the right supervisor is so vitally important. And so I'm so glad I was able to find you, work with you. It's made such an impact on my work, but just also as me as a person too.
Wow. I too am really grateful for our collaboration and for our work together. I love our work together and you're such a joy to work with. you know, you're really leaning into the work, and we both do that together. We really lean in, and as we've said all the way through, look at the messy bits, look at the celebrations, look at all the parts that need, and we do that together. We're courageous together. Yeah, and I also feel really grateful that you found me in the world of the internet, and grateful that we collaborate and the magic that we create together in our supervision space. So thank you for trusting me. Thank you for working together. And yeah, that feels really important for me to say as well, because just as we're talking all the way through, you know, it's really important that we worked with aligned clients, and it's really important for me to work with aligned humans. So I can do the work that I'm meant to do here, and you can do the work that you're meant to do here. So yeah, I'm really grateful as well. So thank you.